Good morning. Today we are going to do the chapter Discovering Tut. The saga continues, and this is chapter 3 of Hornbill, and it's written by A.R. William. This chapter is about the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun, more popularly known as King Tut, who is supposed to have died in a mysterious way. He became king at the age of 9 and he died after 9 years. And his death is still a mystery. King Tut's tomb was discovered by a British archaeologist named Howard Carter in 1922. The mummified body of Tutankhamun was scanned to find out the reason for his death, and that is what we are going to read about in this chapter. So first, let's take a look at the great and famous king of Egypt, Tutankhamun, and let's find out why is Tutankhamun so significant in history. He ruled from 1333 BCE to 1323 BCE. Actually, it is his tomb that is more significant than his life. Actually, Tutankhamun became famous 3,200 years after his death. That was in 1922 when Howard Carter discovered his tomb. And from then on, Tutankhamun became a popular icon, and also the cultural phenomenon called Tutmania was born. The discovery of Tut's tomb in the Valley of Kings in Egypt in 1922 by Howard Carter set off a wave of fascination in the young Egyptian king. The tomb was almost intact with extraordinary funerary treasures, and to add to the fascination, there were some rumors about a curse. But before that, let's talk about the mask. This is the mask that you are seeing, and this golden funerary mask is one of the most famous objects discovered in King Tut's tomb, and it's now kept in an Egyptian museum in Cairo. This mask is 54 centimeter tall, 39 centimeter wide, and it weighs 11 kilograms. And because it's important for you to get some idea about the various mysteries surrounding the life and death of King Tut, let's dig deep into the curse of the Pharaoh. So what is the curse of the Pharaoh? Among the world's most famous curses is the curse of the Pharaoh, also known as King Tut's curse. Ever since King Tut's tomb was discovered in Egypt's Valley of Kings, there were some stories doing the rounds that those who dared to violate the boy king's final resting place faced a terrible curse. It is widely claimed that many people associated with opening the tomb fell victim to the curse, and they died under mysterious circumstances. This belief gained momentum because a few of the people who were involved in finding the tomb died soon after it was opened. Howard Carter, who actually discovered the tomb, died 16 years after that event. So we can conclude that the idea of the curse was grossly unfounded. Moreover, many other people who were associated with Howard Carter and the discovery of King Tut's tomb lived for many years after that event. So the curse of the pharaoh has now become very insignificant. Now, there is the mystery about Tutankhamun's death that we need to touch upon before we start the chapter. The question is, was Tutankhamun murdered? And what is the mystery about his death? That Tutankhamun met his end at such a young age has puzzled Egyptologists. But there are no clues about the death of any pharaoh in Egypt's ancient texts. Attempts have been made to prove that King Tut was murdered, especially after Professor Harrison found a loose piece of bone within the skull, which was in 1968 after the tomb was opened. But that finding does not hold anymore, because it was later argued that the loose bone would have been sealed when the body was embalmed. That means it would not have been out of the skull after so many years of mummification. So, after a lot of speculation regarding Tut's death, it is now speculated that his end was brought about by a combination of factors like malaria, or a fragile constitution, or a serious fracture. So these are the stories that made King Tut so popular after King Tut's tomb was discovered in 1922. Now, let's move on to the chapter. On page 22 of Hornbill, the title of the chapter is Discovering Tut, the Saga Continues, written by A.R. William. And as I told you earlier, this chapter throws light over all the possible mysteries about the curse, where his tomb lies, and his life and death. So we have already discussed about the curse and the mask, the famous mask of King Tut, and the reasons or the mystery of his death. So we will read on and get some more idea about why the Egyptian pharaohs were buried with wealth and everyday use items, because they believed that there is life after death. And we are also going to look at what happened when the embalmed body was taken from its resting place for a CT scan, which was an attempt to solve the mystery of his death by creating a forensic reconstruction. So let's look at the text now. We're on page 22. So let's read the introduction. He was just a teenager when he died, the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt and its empire for centuries. So it was King Tut's family that ruled Egypt for centuries. And he was laid to rest, laden with gold, and eventually forgotten. Since the discovery of his tomb in 1922, the modern world has speculated about what happened to him, with murder being the most extreme possibility. Now, leaving his tomb for the first time in almost 80 years, Tut has undergone a CT scan that offers new clues about his life and death, and provides precise data for an accurate forensic reconstruction of the boyish pharaoh. So, from this we can understand that the scanning of the mummy inside King Tut's tomb, that is the embalmed body of King Tut, was being taken out 80 years after Howard Carter found the tomb. In the next paragraph, we are going to read about what happened when the mummy or the embalmed body of King Tut was taken out for scanning after 80 years. That is 80 years after 1922. So this is happening on 5th January 2005. And it is clearly written here that King Tut died 3,300 years ago. And the mummy of King Tut is being taken out for scanning after so many years. An angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils. Dark bellied clouds had scudded across the desert. So, while the body was being taken out, the wind was very strong and there were dark clouds in the sky. So here we are getting an idea that the weather was not favorable at that time. Here we are getting a picture of the scanner that is brought and kept near the tomb, which is in a desert in Egypt. We know that all these pyramids are in the desert. And that's where this scanning is going to take place, to probe the lingering medical mysteries of this little understood young ruler. So it is to find out the mysteries about King Tut's death. And it is for this reason that the scanning is being done. And in the next paragraph, we read about the tourists who are all assembled there to watch the scanning. And we read that the rock-cut tomb was 26 feet underground, and they are all going to the tomb to pay respects and also to look at the murals on the walls of the burial chamber. And they also saw Tut's gilded face. That is the mask that we talked about earlier. It's a gilded face because it's all in gold. It's all covered in gold. And then some visitors were standing there and reading about King Tut in the guidebooks. And some others were standing there silently, and maybe some of them were thinking about the Pharaoh's curse. That is the curse that we talked about earlier. Whoever dared to violate the boy king's final resting place faced a terrible curse. So is that the reason why there was an angry wind and dark clouds in the sky? So is this signaling some mishap or some misadventure that will take place? Is this related to the curse? And so this is what all the tourists are thinking about. And they are wondering with a shiver if the Pharaoh's curse, death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him, was really true. So that's what they are wondering, if that curse is going to be true. So I think we can stop here for today, and in the next paragraph we're going to read about the treasures that are found in the Pharaoh's tombs and all the expensive things that are stored there. And we also read more about the results of the scanning and if they found out any truth about the stories about its death. So in the meantime, you can do some research or do some googling and find out more about King Tut, the great pharaoh of Egypt, Tutankhamun. And that's the assignment for you. Write a bio sketch of Tutankhamun. So let's wind up today's class. Until we meet again, have a nice day.